I'm Doug Dahl, and this Target Zero update is all about seatbelts. Let's start with the good news. Your effort to save lives is working. A vast majority of drivers are protected by their seatbelts, to a large extent because of the work of law enforcement across the state. Here's what I mean. 93% of Washingtonians wear their seatbelts, and we've been doing it for nearly 20 years. Since 2002, Washington's seatbelt use rate has consistently been at 93% or higher. A big part of that has been continuous enforcement of our seatbelt law. It's not a coincidence that we reached 93% the same year we enacted a primary seatbelt law and launched statewide click-it-or-ticket enforcement campaigns. For some perspective, here's a quick bit of seatbelt history in Washington. In 1986, the first year we conducted a survey, our seatbelt use rate was at 36%. That year, we passed a secondary enforcement seatbelt law, and in 1 year, use jumped up to 52%. Seatbelt use rates continued to climb until 1995, when they plateaued at around 80%. For the next 7 years, the use rate stayed flat. It wasn't until our primary law and statewide enforcement efforts that we reached and maintained a 93% or better use rate. But that 93% rate is not evenly distributed. There are some factors and demographics that negatively influence seatbelt use. Seatbelts are worn less on rural roads, at nighttime, by young drivers, by impaired drivers, and by pickup truck drivers. The risks are measured in lives lost. Despite 93% of drivers wearing a seatbelt, unrestrained vehicle occupants made up 20% of Washington's traffic fatalities in 2019. And let's get back to our young drivers for a bit. Our least experienced drivers, those aged 16 to 25, have the lowest seatbelt use rate of all ages, and the results are tragic. 35% of young drivers who were killed in crashes were not wearing a seatbelt. Lack of seatbelt use is one of the top 5 fatal crash factors in our state. Where do we go from here? The Washington Traffic Safety Commission is committed to data-driven investment to increase seatbelt use across the state. Best practices include high visibility enforcement and focusing educational efforts on high-risk groups like young drivers. Seatbelts save over 12,000 lives every year in the U.S. That's more lives saved than all other vehicle technologies combined. Enforcement of our seatbelt laws has been a key factor in driving up and maintaining the high level of seatbelt use in our state. And when you think about the positive impact that's had in our communities, it's an effort worth the investment.